So here's something that used to be talked about in, before the truth community was the truth community. A bunch of wet farts jerking each other off, talking about coast to coast, which is a propaganda mill. It's in place to mislead people. But that's one of the first places that I remember hearing the Chronovisor, located in the Vatican. Now, what I want you to appreciate, if I'm not mistaken, there is a thing, there's a process, there's a ritual. And what I'm getting at is aspects of this hold water to a degree, but it's not what's being presented in this video at all. The other thing I want you to appreciate, and I'll play this in a minute, this is the Danny guy from Question Antiquity again. He was at the top of my feed when I logged into Instagram, which is also quite telling, but then again, I do interact with him, and that's how the algorithm fucks us. What was I going to say? So this is presented as if it's a documentary you might have, at least it reminds me, it's reminiscent of documentaries that I sat through back in the 90s, primarily speaking, early 2000s, roughly enough. And it sounds like something that's supposed to be mildly credible, or at least put together well. The reason I'm dragging my heels and complaining about this, it's going to mention Fermi and it's going to mention Wernher von Braun twice. If this documentary wasn't shit out by a bunch of brain dead Muppets, they wouldn't have rattled it off the way they did. It's very similar to storytelling on the box, the big screen, etc., etc., when you have multiple characters saying the same fucking line. A great example in recent times is Deadpool and Wolverine, which I consider, Disney pool. Everybody in that fucking film says, "Let's fucking go," independently, because they just know that's the tagline and it's a Disney movie. It's a cash grab. Either way. What I'll do is I'll pinch the video so you don't have to hear any background noises, and I'll play this garbage and maybe I'll say some more. Oh, but before I do, because there's always more, I want you to pay careful attention to the propaganda that is pushed in this. In other words, whoever did shit this out, keep in mind some CIA bullshit, or you could consider it alphabet agency bullshit, will dumb things down so that it does sound like a bunch of jerk-offs put it together. So you never know. The team of, Muppets that are pulling our strings may have intentionally did that. What I was rattling off about Fermi and Wernher von Braun. I just realized the zipper on my shorts, it looks like it's oxidating. Random thoughts. Back to point. But this video also includes a number of things that have to do with propaganda, and I'm just wondering if any of you see it for what it is, because most people can't spot propaganda. That's why all this shit circulated to begin with, and if they did, they would make their own video. They'd make their own content, and they would exclude that shit and or call attention to the fact that it's fucking propaganda, but you don't see people doing that. Even though they're carrying around apps that can edit things, among other things. I mean, we have so many fucking tools at our disposal right now in terms of the apps, the applications, and yet we still have people churning out, recirculating the same shit that our masters left on the internet decades ago. It's fucking crazy. It is crazy. But that doesn't come up.
The Chronovisor is said to be a device that gives the user the ability to see through time. Though the existence of the Chronovisor has never been proven, a 2002 book by Vatican priest, Father Francois Brune, says otherwise. According to Brune, the Chronovisor was developed by Father Pellegrino Ernetti, a Benedictine monk. Ernetti allegedly kept the device secret until the early 1960s, when he confided in Brune and told him that 12 scientists, including famed physicist Enrico Fermi and former Nazi scientist Wernher von Braun, helped him to build it. Made of cathode rays, antennae, and metals that received sound and light signals on all wavelengths, the Chronovisor purportedly allowed the team of scientists to document events of the past, including the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. The machine, therefore, could validate the teachings of the Bible simply by providing a first-hand look into the past. Brune explains how he met Father Ernetti on a boat ride across Venice's Grand Canal in the early 1960s. Like Brune, Ernetti was well versed in the history of ancient languages, which made for natural conversation. But soon, Ernetti directed their chat towards science. Brune had been expounding on the many ways in which the Christian Bible could be interpreted when Ernetti suggested that he had access to the truth via a time-traveling device. Ernetti claimed that he and a group of renowned scientists came together in a mutual quest to uncover the past. One scientist was Fermi, who won the Nobel Prize in Physics in 1938, and another was the ex-Nazi von Braun, whose work at NASA got America to the moon. According to Ernetti, the device had several antennae, 3 of which were made of mysterious metals that picked up sound and light waves across their entire respective spectrums. A direction finder on the device was allegedly tuned into the specific era one wanted to view, while a screen displayed it and a recording device captured the footage. The chronovisor was thus more of a window into the past than a time machine. Ernetti said it worked like a television, catching echoes from days long gone that had been floating in space. And he claimed to have seen some astonishing things. Ernetti recounted how he witnessed Marcus Tullius Cicero's speech to the Roman Senate in 63 BC. His gestures, his intonation, Ernetti effused. How powerful they were. What flights of oratory. Ernetti made additional, increasingly bolder claims, such as having observed the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. From the founding of the Roman Empire to the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, Ernetti alleged that he and his team had taken a peek into some of the most important events in the Bible. Ernetti maintained until his death in 1994 that the machine had been hidden away by the Vatican in order to safeguard it from falling into the wrong hands. Interestingly, the Vatican decreed in 1988 that anyone using an instrument of such characteristics would be excommunicated. Shortly before he died, Ernetti wrote an open letter adamantly reiterating that the device was real. He claimed that Pope Pius XIV forbade us to disclose any details about this device because the machine was very dangerous. It can restrain the freedom of man. Some say that Father Pellegrino Ernetti confessed to having fabricated the whole story before his death on April 8, 1994, but this remains hotly contested. With von Braun, Fermi, Ernetti, and Brune now dead, only the intriguing mystery remains.
So one of the things that stands out is when Wernher von Braun is openly stated to be a Nazi, which people know today. I mean, that's circulated in the truth community. I mean, NASA never should have existed. I mean, it doesn't need to exist. But it sure as shit should have been torn down and uprooted. But people didn't do that, even though it was founded by Nazis. But in the same breath, essentially in this video, they also reaffirm the narrative of walking on the moon. They say something to the effect of, and that Nazi, put men on the moon, which promotes polarizing, heliocentric, globe theory horse shit. It's nonsense. It's fucking nonsense. Doesn't reflect reality. It's garbage, but it reaffirms that. By this point in the video, it starts talking about how the chronovisor, it wasn't so much a time machine, blah, 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 blah. It was pulling, these, I don't know if they said sound waves, frequencies, things along those lines. But they say out of space. Now, it's not talking about, if you think for yourself. Just think for yourself. The Vatican does have a ridiculous amount of, what are they called now? Observatories, telescopes, and what have you. large scale. One of them I think is called Lucifer, but it's an acronym. It's broken up and it stands for a bunch of bullshit. I think it's Lucifer is what it is, or an abbreviation of that. I can't remember, but it's just something fucking ridiculous having to do with the light bearer. But what was I just saying? Bear with me. I have not eaten much today still, and I had to, I don't know. It's a whole nother ball of wax. So the Vatican. Some of you might know where the Vatican's at in Roma. The city-state, the middle of the trilateral city-states. Do you know of any equipment on site in the Vatican? I mean, when you picture the Vatican, what do you picture? The Sistine Chapel and shit like that? The Pope chair? I mean, those are the things I think of. I went there once, and it's a joke. I mean, there's some beautiful relics there that are still privy to the public, but it's a joke. And the entire thing is atrocious, what it stands for. But I didn't see a giant satellite dish. I didn't see a giant fucking telescope. I didn't see any of this other shit. And of course you guys could say, well, that's because it's hidden in the basement. And that's how they're, pulling these echoes out of fucking space. Space is a bad pun. And if I'm not mistaken, that's what that's referring to in this video. The more you go through this, the more it does stink of all the wrong people putting this together and spoon feeding it to a bunch of fucking Muppets. But maybe I'm wrong. The way our masters do work, if you're paying attention to the programming, which people aren't, they often will say something like the Wernher von Braun crap. He put men on the moon, which reaffirms one narrative, polarizing bullshit. And then down the line, they'll say an opposing narrative in not so many words. And sometimes it's word games. Sometimes it's, I'm trying to think of how to explain it. You'll have two characters and they'll say something in passing. It's dressed up more like satire. They'll talk about an analogy having to do with something that reflects reality. You'll hear this in some movies where they will talk about Armageddon in terms of a hill, but they won't call it Armageddon. And it's just hilarious. It's just fucking hilarious. Then earlier in the movie, they'll fucking say God is dead, there is no God, and shit like that. It's just contradictory bullshit where our masters are fucking laughing at us, but people digest the latest content and they don't see it. They don't pick up on it. They don't realize that they are being laughed at. They are openly being mocked. They're also being polarized. They're being pulled in these two different directions, which will trip you up. It's intentional, but people aren't very bright. They don't mean to be. I won't be able to post this next clip to any of the major websites the social engineering platforms people call social media, but it's alive and well on Instagram. It's just funny. If I pinched it and I put it online, I would be flagged because I have before just to see. But what I was trying to do was go to the end of the video and play the last little bit because that's the same format that you get every single time you watch the History Channel, where they essentially say, well, we'll probably never fucking know. Thanks for letting us waste your time. Now, here's the clip, which I won't be able to show you. Maybe I'll put a smiley face or some stupid shit over there. I'll put a social engineering sticker on it. Maybe I'll do that. If you can't see these, this is a pair of tits in a child's mouth. But why is this on Instagram? Why is this on Instagram? I mean, I like bare-breasted women and what have you, but it's pretty shiesty when kids do use this shit and people are so concerned about things being sexualized. Well, and why can't I post the same shit? If I quite literally took this and put this on the fucking internet, I would be flagged. Because, like I said, I've done it before just to see. Which is it? And why am I fucked with and they're not? Here's the website. Their profile. God, I'm flipping things. 11,000 people's a lot, to be posting shit like that and be censored and to have been slapped on the wrist numerous times because of what they're leaving on the internet. I mean, it's clearly not happening, is my point. I constantly echo that people don't research, they regurgitate, they recirculate things, they repost. So the other aspect of this, bear with me, I'm probably burning these potatoes. What you don't see in this, and what would have come up, is the origin behind why this is being shopped around on the internet. What it refers to, if I'm not mistaken, and that's one of the things I could point out and teach you guys. Again, it's superficial to me. It's something people should already know about, but apparently they don't. By and large. I almost told you something else, but there's no reason to do that and spoon feed that to people. I mean, for the most part, people aren't seeing these videos. Very few. And again, I just... A lot of people who have contacted me throughout the years telling me that they were going to do this, that, and the other thing. They were so fucking invested. And I have still dished up answers throughout all these fucking long years. But you don't see them popping by the account and doing the right fucking thing. You don't. Some swing by and cherry pick, but that's not what I was referring to in terms of the right thing. Every day I've been telling myself not to leave videos online. It's tough. It's tough for me, at least. Everywhere I go, I bump into something where somebody's rattling off a fallacy or just flat out pushing propaganda. It's just as good as trying to truck around town and not see somebody wearing a fucking mask. And then I consider, the people I interact with, the people who I see online, what do they actually know? What are they willing to appreciate? Can they think about things and truly reason shit out? And so I leave a video online, hoping that somebody might fucking see it and think about it.